All right, so hi everyone. I am here with Erik Armstrong, who is a professor of English and also your FEC chair, or as I like to say, he is the only other person on campus who has probably memorized your banner ID. So welcome, Erik. So for those who don't know the drill, I'm going to ask you some questions, quick answers, so that we can get to know you as part of Costa's Ask the Faculty series. So let's begin. What
Awesome.
is your favorite food truck?
Okay, my favorite is Lumpia Hut, but they've been out of service for a while, at least as far as I can tell. So second is Balancong right now. They're great.
You are quite the connoisseur. Main reason you chose teaching?
I chose teaching because I wanted to be able to return a lot of the favors that teachers did for me. And I chose community college on purpose for that, where I had like the best mentors I think a young person can have.
And what course do you teach?
I teach mostly English 1, which is college reading and composition, English 2, which is logic and composition, and then English 14, which is creative writing.
What is your proudest non-teaching accomplishment?
Okay, this question I thought was, it's always one of those catch-22 questions, like, do I say my family or, but I think thinking about it, like non-teaching, I think my proudest accomplishments so far are my work on AB 705 and getting it implemented here and around the state and regionally, and then getting published about that work last spring, which was really wonderful.
And you know that you're a hard worker because your proudest non-teaching accomplishments are still work-related.
Right. I always feel bad. I was like, oh, am I still talking about work?
Something most people don't know about your past.
I think most people probably would not know off the top of like just by meeting me or seeing me that I'm part Filipino. I have 8 brothers and sisters, and I grew up in a very small town in Northern California called Red Bluff that most maps don't even recognize as worth wasting the ink for. So I grew up in a very small regional area, and I don't think most people would know that about me.
Your Watch It 1,000 Times movie.
Okay, so this one was so hard because I am definitely of that, like, I think nostalgia economy that will consume things that I love. So I had to pick 2. One is Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa and the Valley of the Winds, which I just absolutely adore, and I've adored it since I was a kid. And then the other one was Spaceballs. And Mel Brooks, I think, is just comic genius, and I always go back to that movie if I need some humor and laughter.
Princess Mononoke would be on my top 5, so
Oh, no doubt.
I applaud the Nausicaa. Late work policy.
My late work policy is currently yes, of course. That's literally what it says in my syllabus. I think over time teaching, I've just learned that like a certain amount of flexibility and grace is the way good systems work. And students really appreciate it. So most assignments that I have just automatically are open for 5 extra days. And I don't ask any questions. If they turn it in a day late, it's a day late. If it's 2 days late, whatever. But then I even, after that, will have them say, like, if you need to do something late, you just have to meet with me to talk about the plan for accomplishing that, right? Amidst all the rest of the work you have to do, how do you plan on doing this late work? And I found that the policy works really well. Not only do students love it, if students fail to turn in work, they understand that they've gotten a second chance and that they've just missed it because they just can't pay attention to it at that time. And it just opens communication up so easily. And it's really how we work with each other when we're being really good colleagues with each other.
And then similarly, what is your absence policy?
So I have a fairly flexible one now, especially since we're online, and attendance is a weird thing when you're in an online class. So I essentially have it where if you miss several weeks of class, like I think I have it currently like 3 weeks. And what I mean by that is like you have not turned in assignments for 3 weeks, then I have reserved the right to drop you. But usually what I'll do first is like, I reach out to students, hey, what's happening? This is not your typical work pattern. Like, and usually students will have a really good explanation, particularly in these COVID times where, there's a reason they've disappeared for a week or two. Usually then we work out a plan together, whatever works best for them. But my attendance policy is just essentially like, are you participating and doing the work of the course? And if so, we can find a way to figure out whatever else we need to do.
What is one piece of advice you have for your students?
I think my common piece of advice across all of my classes, whether it's, English 1 or 2 or 14, is give it a shot. Like, I think so much about learning, and I had to do this myself. And so it's a lesson that I also tell myself, is that you often don't know what you're good at or what you can do if you don't try it. An example would be, for me personally, learning how to drive a stick shift. I didn't know how to do it. And I always thought it was just like impossible and weird that people could move that many things at once while they're paying attention to driving. But it really just took somebody like taking me out and teaching me how to do it, and then saying, hey, you're going to drive us on the next trip. And I could do it. It was totally doable. But the mental aspect of like trying something new out, something that's difficult, was a lot worse than I think just trying it out for yourself and figuring out if you can do it or not. So if it comes to like creative writing and you don't like poetry, try it. Do something fun and creative that you might enjoy with it, and then see where it takes you. And then if not, okay, well, then at least you tried it, right? Like, and I think that goes for so much in our lives. Show up, give it a shot.
It's so important for teachers to do that. A lot of times we ask that for, like, I love that you talked about the stick shift story, because a lot of times we ask our students to try things. And it's important for us to reflect on how we feel when we try things that are new and uncomfortable,
right,
and difficult. So the next question's probably my favorite. What pets do you have?
I currently only have a dog, a Boston Terrier who's about 9 years old, and her name is Bean. And she is our first child. So we always refer to her as the older sister, to shame our younger children into good behavior, because she's very well behaved for the most part. But we are thinking about extending our world out into fish, because our children want to get fish in a fish tank. So that might be happening soon.
So on a Sunday, are you going to hike a mountain or kill zombies?
I think on a Sunday I will hike a mountain.
But on a Tuesday, it's all about the zombies, right?
Right. I thought about that question. I just thought, like, okay, I definitely would be killing zombies, but on a Sunday, right? Like, everybody needs a day of rest.
So hiking is a day of rest,
Yeah. Get some nature.
So what is your favorite recent teaching moment?
Favorite recent teaching moment was this semester with my creative writing class so far. So I'm sure that many people who will watch this or read this will say, like, teaching in a pandemic is really hard. You don't get to connect with your students. And for the most part, I agree with that. I really struggle with that part of it. But this semester, I created a Discord channel for my creative writing class. And this wonderful, just organic moment happened at 10:30 at night. So all of a sudden, like, my phone buzzes because there's a message that comes through saying, hey, you have a Discord message in your creative writing channel. So I pop it open, and it's a student asking if he can share his poem in the creative writing channel. And so I answer and say, yes, of course, please. Like, this is a space for you to do that, by all means. And other students pop in and start asking the same question, and we start having discussions about creative writing, like things that we're reading. And then the student posts his poem, and then everybody starts commenting about it. And I offer a suggestion after a few students do, and then he tries it out and reposts the poem, and he's like, yes, I like this better this way. And other students are saying the same thing. And it turned into, at 10:30 at night, it turned into like a 45-minute digital conversation between me and students that was totally what they needed, what they wanted at the time. And I stayed up late just to talk to them about like poetry. And it was just like, I was like, man, if we can just find ways to connect with students, that's really what we need. It's not that we can't. Digitally, you can. You just have to find the right way in the right moments. So it gave me a lot of hope.
That is the best sales pitch for a Discord, also, like I've heard, by the way. So
yeah, you don't have to be a gamer to use it effectively, although it helps.
So are you the kind of person who likes to do it now or wait until the last minute?
Okay, so definitely now. I have so much anxiety about doing things at the last minute or late. Sometimes that happens. Like we're all like trying to rush sometimes, but like my advice is always like dig into it if you have 15 minutes, because otherwise the specter of doing it just grows. And then I feel like it's like your ghosts of grading past when you haven't dug into it. And then it's like rattling chains behind you is like, see what you didn't do. So my mentality is always like, if I can spend 5 minutes doing now, even a little bit, I feel so much better about my life than if I just do it later.
So what is another career that you'd pursue other than teaching?
I was always told that I would be a good lawyer. And I am very interested in legal stuff. I read Supreme Court cases for fun, like when they get published and like, oh, what did they say? And like, what's the dissenting opinion say?
Quite the page turner,
Right. I mean, but for me, I'm super nerd that way. Like, I really love Ruth Bader Ginsburg's little piece I think it was the Montana Review, where she talks about the importance of dissenting opinions. And so often I'll just go to the dissenting opinion first just to see like, well, how are they arguing this? I initially, when I first started college, I was actually a science major and I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I think as I'm older, like, I don't know, maybe I could go back to med school. I think I'd probably be okay with cadavers now. I wasn't okay in community college. I was not okay with cadavers. That's what stopped me. But I think I might be okay now.
So what is your favorite anxiety reliever?
Reading, hands down. And I know people are going to see this and be like, oh my God, he's such an English dork. And it's true, I am. But like, I don't think things calm me down much more than like being able to pick up like a book that I want to read, even if it's school oriented, if it's something I've selected myself, letting me kind of like go into a different mental space will often feel like I can come back to the world in a better place. And then the other thing is sleeping. Yeah. My wife will tell you I have a superpower to sleep when I need to or want to, and I will sleep on the couch, on the floor, against a wall. So usually what I do if I'm feeling like really is like, I'll just go and take like a 45-minute power nap and come back and try it out again and see if that works.
So what is one inanimate object you'd take to a desert island?
Oh my goodness, this was so hard. I saw some of the other answers on the other one and it's like my tablet. I said like, yeah, perhaps, like, because it has all your books in it. But I'm not a really big digital reader. I am much more like a physical reader. And then I thought, well, all of my books. And like, that's not one. That's not one object. That is many objects. So then I thought, could I get around this question by saying my bookshelf? Like just the one shelf with all of the books on it. And maybe that's an okay answer. Like if I could check that around. Yeah.
But I will say the correct answer for this one is a boat.
That is true. Because how did I get to the island in the first place? Yes.
What is your favorite thing about your job?
My favorite thing about my job is aha moments. And I think that's true for faculty and students and myself. Like, I just love learning. I love learning for myself, trying new things out and just seeing how it feels. But like when students get something and there's that click moment, like it's one of those experiences that is visual. Like you can see the student having it if they're in the space with you. You can hear it in their voice, but it's also something you can feel. Like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll be in a classroom and then you can feel it kind of click across the classroom. And it's like one of those goosebump moments for me where I feel like I'm just in the flow of time and learning. But I also think it's true for us as we learn new things as like colleagues and divisions as a college where we just figure something out and we're like, yeah, I think this is the way we need to do this. And then watching the resulting effects and transformation, I think are really powerful.
Your office decor, minimalist or maximalist?
Is there a messiest right now? I think spiritually I endeavor to be minimalist because too much mess makes me feel anxious. But I am also notoriously like a note hoarder because I go back to things a lot. So currently I am a messy moderate, desperately trying to become a minimalist, probably not able to do so. I got this new office right before the pandemic. And so literally I haven't had a chance to clean it. I've been coming in regularly this semester to kind of come in, get rid of stuff. So that's helping me become a minimalist. But like I came back in and it was just like boxes with stuff stacked on the microwave. And I was like, oh my gosh, if somebody came in here, they'd be like, how does this guy work?
So what is the biggest obstacle you would remove for students if you could?
The biggest obstacle currently that I would remove would be finances. I think the cost of learning, the cost to learn, to have access to learning is just really prohibitive and seems unnecessary to me. It seems a lot of the choices we make, and I say we as like higher education as a whole, to both fund learning and I mean, just around tuition costs, textbook costs. I find that often if you just remove that obstacle for students in whatever way, it really makes a difference for them. And it opens up funds to do other things. Like we don't offer childcare very much. I think childcare is huge in our area, but that's a cost, right? And if we could open up like the financial barriers for campus for access to learning, tuition, healthcare, textbooks, and just make that part of what it is, I think then students could invest in it much more readily and easily across the board. Not just like, I don't mean just like getting your, associate's degree and your bachelor's degree and, moving on that way. That's important too. But I mean like, even just students who want to come back and get an additional certificate or two to improve their current work environment. And we offer a lot of those. But if we could just make it cost effective, students will just come to it. And we have several programs like that where they're grant funded and they're no cost to students. And we get wait list upon wait lists for those programs because the cost is really the barrier, not the desire to learn.
Final question. What is the best thing about being a Costa member?
The best thing about being a Costa member is that I feel like I'm surrounded by people who want a better workplace. We may not always agree on what that is, but ultimately, like, I think it's super important to have people work together to find a better workplace so that we can do the things that we just talked about, right? All the stuff that we love and enjoy about teaching and working, and have those accomplishments come from a reliable, safe, healthy work environment that acknowledges the work and gets you the pay that you need for it. So I like being surrounded by colleagues who understand that that's a collective endeavor, and are working toward that.
Thank you so much, Erik.
You're welcome. This went faster than I thought it would.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Erik, and thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Everyone at home, nice to meet you.